Hello. Welcome to our charge stacking Frenzy Trickster build guide. Frenzy is usually an attack skill used only to generate frenzy charges, but thanks to its powerful scaling, one can make it a proper standalone skill. On top of regular frenzy charge bonuses, it gains an additional 5% more damage and attack speed per frenzy charge, which can quickly add up if you have lots of them. The best way to acquire so many frenzy charges is to actually invest in power charges instead, and with the badge of Brotherhood you will have the same amount of additional frenzy charges as well. To use our attack we use Ballista totems, which usually offer a much higher damage output ceiling and a comfy playstyle. The Void Battery is usually associated with casters, but due to the powerful nature of charge stacking, it is also the best in slot weapon for this attack build. It greatly improves spell damage, which we can convert into attack damage through the Wand Mastery. Fortunately, Frenzy is a very universal skill that can be used with all weapon types. All mentioned mechanics offer amazing scaling opportunities, but you also have to take care of base damage. We can get tons of lightning damage through the Abyss Jewels, Rings, and Thunderfist gloves. The Wrath Aura is also an important source of flat damage. You can use all damage types, although the lightning is preferred as it improves your shocks. With power and frenzy charges you will have tons of additional critical strike chance and attack speed, which makes scaling very easy. You can quickly deploy 5 Ballistas totems that will automatically aim at nearby enemies. This build is not particularly tanky. You will have a decent amount of maximum life supported by an energy shield, and plenty of spell suppression, but there are no meaningful ways to reduce incoming damage. Evasion and very fast teleports greatly help at staying alive. It takes a bit of practice, but once you master the lightning warp movement, you will be able to teleport around the maps very fast. You can place your totems in between each warp to maximize your damage uptime. Once fixated on one particular enemy, totems will deal tons of single target damage. At its core it is a quite cheap build, however, adding more power charges through gear can get very expensive. This build uses a lot of unique items, which makes buying gear significantly easier. There are many useful corruptions you can try to get, but they are not required. Void Battery Wand grants you additional power charge, which makes it automatically best in slot item. Spell damage bonus is not wasted here, as it can be converted into attack damage through the Wand Mastery. Try to get useful Corruption or Crucible Tree here for a free damage bonus. You can dual-wield wands, or use the Malachai's Loop Shield instead. It grants 1 power charge more than Void Battery, but shocks you when you gain a maximum amount of power charges. You can't lose power charges below the minimum amount. Wilmus Requital grants Ancestral Bond Keystone, which raises your maximum totem limit. It also greatly improves your attack speed and accuracy rating. Try to get a corrupted modifier that increases your maximum power charges. Shroud of the Lightless grants additional Abyss Jewel sockets and greatly rewards you for using them by increasing your maximum life and elemental penetration. Standing Still with the Ralakesh's Impatience boots equipped will automatically grant you all your charges up to a maximum amount, but you will lose them as soon as you make a step. This can be countered by using Lightning Warp as your main way of travel. Thunderfist grants you tons of lightning damage and improves your shocks to increase your damage even more. Aim to get attack speed or additional critical strike chance for your attacks through the Corrupted Implicit. The Badge of the Brotherhood is another core item necessary for this build. Thanks to this amulet you can invest massively only into power charges and you will gain an equal amount of frenzy charges as well. The recommended anointment here is the Overcharge Notable that grants you an additional power charge. Thanks to the Thread of Hope Jewel you can pick up many powerful passives in the Ranger area and save tons of points on traveling nodes. The negative resistances can be somewhat hard to counter, as you use a lot of unique items without any resistances on them. You can get very powerful bonuses from this jewel. Wrath and Precision offer valuable offensive modifiers, while Grace or Haste offer mostly utility options. You can get additional power charge by borrowing the Unstable Infusion Notable from Assassin's Ascendancy. It is only marginally better than a well-rolled pair of Abyss Jewels, so make sure it is worth the investment first. The only rare items you need are jewelry, rings, belt, and jewels. There you should look for maximum life, lots of elemental resistances, and sources of flat and increased elemental damage. Accuracy is quite important too, but 1 or 2 modifiers should be enough to get a 100% hit chance. Optionally, you can use rare boots that grant you life, movement speed, resistances, and ailment avoidance. By doing so you will have to generate charges manually, but you won't lose your damage while moving or dodging. Stygian Vice grants you an additional Abyss Jewel socket, and you can get many useful modifiers like maximum life, elemental damage, or resistances here. Getting lacking attributes for your gem requirements is also important. You can get tons of useful modifiers on your ring. Maximum life, resistances, damage, or accuracy rating can be easily acquired here. If you have lots of currency, you can get +1 to maximum power charge here, which will dramatically improve your damage. You have a lot of flexibility here. You can get maximum life, flat lightning damage for your wand attacks, critical strike multiplier, accuracy rating, or even elemental resistances. You can also get various ailment avoidances if the damage is already not your concern. On the large cluster jewel you can get many useful notables. Try to get at least 2 of the primary ones, Prismatic Heart and Scintillating Idea, as those are the best out there. You can also try to get one with an increased effect of small nodes and focus on additional bonuses on them, such as attack speed or flat life and resistances. Thanks to the Sleepless Sentry's notable, you will have a permanent onslaught buff for additional attack speed. The second notable is less important, but Ancestral Echo seems to be the best as it grants totem placement speed, which is a great quality of life upgrade. Bottled Faith is a powerful flask that grants you tons of damage and a critical strike chance against enemies standing in the consecrated ground it creates. For your other magic flasks, we recommend getting Life Flask with Curse Removal, Mana Flask with Bleeding Removal to sustain spamming Lightning Warp, Quicksilver with Cast Speed bonus, and Jade Flask with Evasion rating bonus. Frenzy is the main theme of this build. It is a simple ranged attack that shoots a projectile with no additional secondary effect. However, it gains 5% more attack speed and damage for each frenzy charge you have. In this build you don't have access to a proper 6-link item. Instead, you should socket this setup in the Thunderfist gloves to get the level 30 added lightning damage support gem. The phantasmal quality on the totem gem grants you a 10% chance of returning projectile, which is a decent damage bonus. With enough cast speed and reduced duration, Lightning Warp becomes a nearly instant teleport. Moving this way won't remove charges if you use Ralakash Impatience boots, as technically you are standing still. Use relevant support gems to get more cast speed or reduce the duration of Lightning Warp, which also makes it faster. You can use the Life Tap or Inspiration supports instead of Swift Affliction to reduce the mana consumption. Storm Blast is a mind skill that applies a 3% damage taken debuff on nearby enemies, stacking up to 150%. Use it after placing totems and marking enemies, as you will have nothing else to do anyway. Charged Mines and Minefield are used to deploy your mines as soon as possible. You can pick any trap you want, but Lightning Trap seems to be the best damage-wise, and you can use Vol version to guarantee shock. It is an optional setup used to inflict lightning exposure through the Awakened Lightning Penetration. It is mostly useful if you use a rare boot setup and need another way to generate charges. The Wrath Aura provides tons of lightning damage for your attacks. It also unlocks very powerful Watcher Eye modifiers. Precision is another important aura for this build. It grants tons of accuracy rating and critical strike chance. Haste grants lots of cast speed and attack speed. The Wilmus Requital Helmet converts the cast speed into even more attack speed. If you prefer a more defensive setup, you can use Grace for a massive evasion rating bonus. You don't need the Enlightened support, but it makes the gameplay more comfortable as you have more mana to spend at once. Without it, the Mana Flask is even more necessary. Sniper's Mark is a very powerful mark for all projectile builds. It grants tons of damage and splits projectiles when they hit your target. In this setup, Summon Lightning Golem grants tons of attack speed. It also provides some cast speed for your Lightning Warp. Steel Skin grants you a protective buff that absorbs some of the incoming damage and disables bleeding during its duration. For the bandit quests, it is generally better to pick the 2 bonus passive skill points, but helping Alira is also acceptable as it grants plenty of damage for your critical strikes and helps to cap your resistances. You are chill and freeze immune thanks to your ascendancy, so it is best to pick up the Soul of Era Kali to reduce the damage you take from the overtime effects. To further boost that aspect, you can take the Soul of Shikari to reduce the damage you take from poisons even more. The Soul of Tukahama is also pretty good as you aim to be technically stationary all the time anyway. As you can guess, your passive tree focuses mostly on the power charges. You will pick up 2 maximum power charges and a cluster that grants you tons of bonuses for each charge you have. On your way there you should also grab various bonuses to wand attacks, critical strikes, maximum life, or mana reservation efficiency. The Ranger's area of the passive tree is very generous for elemental attack characters, as you can get lots of damage, spell suppression, or even additional projectile there. This build is not suitable to level up with your final setup, as you need many different pieces paired together to make it work. However, general power charge stacking is sufficient enough to go through the campaign as a generic elemental caster, for example using the Freezing Pulse spell. The Polymath notable granted by your ascendancy grants you 3% more damage for each unique mastery you pick up, so it is often worth it to pick a barely useful mastery just to get that bonus. The Thread of Hope is very helpful in getting the most out of the aforementioned passives in the Ranger area. The most important bonuses to take here is the Pierce and additional projectile. That would conclude today's video. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you want to see more of our videos, please leave a like and subscribe. Have a good day, and see you next time.